Narcissistic personality disorder is incredibly difficult in general to diagnose. For starters, you need to have a willing participant who will accept the assessment process to fully quantify if someone is truly narcissistic in nature. Even then, they are masters at deviating from truth, so they'll more than likely try and sway psychometric testing to suit their needs. I find that I work with more and more women who find themselves in a situation where they get into bed with someone who has absolutely no respect for them and their autonomy and freedom. Instead, the person that lies in their bed is someone who constantly degrades, belittles, and undermines any attempt to reach a sense of freedom in their mind and body. So this person slowly but surely begins to disarm any form of personal control and creates a situation where their well-being is completely reliant on the judgment of the other. How this situation comes about is usually through sex, ironically. The narcissistic individual usually has an uncanny ability to showcase what great sex feels like, and this becomes almost a constant during the beginning stages of the relationship. The ability to morph into what the other believes is their ideal lover, fundamentally. When we receive amazing lovemaking, we naturally become addicted to this process, and especially if this is provided over a long period of time. We naturally get conditioned into thinking this is the baseline for what lovemaking is about. So, our reliance moves away from the loving of our own body towards one where we focus purely on the sexual act and the gratification that we get from the other. We also need to take into consideration our own lack of loving ourselves, as this is a massive bullseye for narcissistic predators. In a roundabout fashion, this is where a different type of codependency develops. This is why a continual sexual relationship with oneself is vital and needs to be used as a baseline to your own sexual and mental equilibrium. I believe that we entrust our sex into the space of the other, or we allow the other to enter our sacred space of sexuality. But this doesn't mean that they have control over the sense of autonomy we feel in that space. It's a shared space where two or more conscious minds and bodies come together to share a space of freedom and bliss and benefit from those sensations. It's about sharedness and being with one another, not the using of control to manipulate the other into a state of helplessness. This is why I always point out that sex is a real responsibility, not only to oneself but also the other. There is no joking matter about sex, even though it can be incredibly joyous and must be immensely joyous. Once we've been conditioned into believing that we know what we have in the other, and we have been coerced into completely surrendering ourselves to the other, this is where there is often the textbook dismantling of your trust within yourself. This is where the narcissist will make you reflect on your life and introduce feelings of shame and guilt, even though there is really nothing to feel ashamed or guilty about. Your past experiences and choices will be used against you, almost in a fashion to taint you and maintain you being lesser than them. Be mindful of statements that arise that are used continuously. They may be seen as jokey in the beginning, but the level of venom increases as time goes by. Once this has been established, there will be a consistent chipping away at your core, which is the trust you have in yourself and your voice, and instill their values and beliefs and warped perspective on life. This will continue to such a degree that eventually you will be the person that has adopted the narrative willingly that was ever so gently imposed onto you. There is something I call the narcissistic hook. This is something that occurs with all narcissistic relationships, regardless if they are familial in nature or with a romantic partner. They all use the same tactic. This is baiting you in with the completely abstract and nonsensical way that they see the world. You have a natural inclination to point out the error in the manner to which they see the world, because it's usually so absurd that you cannot not open it up for debate. What happens is that this will be an ongoing process until they've convinced you of the surreal nature of how they see the world. It's at this point that they've penetrated the core of your belief system and can implant anything into your psyche, constantly pushing you over the edge. This is where you go against yourself. You get stuck in the narrative, and this narrative becomes the primary focus of yourself because you are still trying to make sense of it instead of packing your bags and placing on your running shoes and run. You have fundamentally been baited into the narcissistic trap, and it'll only get better when you realize you have lost total respect for yourself and total trust in yourself to make the best decisions for yourself. What happens at this point is you begin to turn on yourself. You quite literally point out your neediness and regressive behavior to the point where you start associating with flippant remarks like, "You are bipolar," or "You need therapy." These are additional tactics used to push you further away from having control over your own autonomy. When you truly look at yourself, you will acknowledge that you are just the shell of your former self. But this doesn't mean that all hope is lost. If you have quite literally arrived at this and you're listening to me talking about this, you're looking for an answer. I have many for you, but for the time being, you need to ensure that you make connections with people that love you. If you have no one, start making new friends. Start building your network of people that are not associated with your partner so that you are rebuilding some kind of safe space with others who relate normally. It's here that you will allow yourself to reintegrate with others who can start seeing your value, and this is the starting block to build your confidence and find your voice again. The key purpose is to create some type of separation from the dependency you have created on this individual. You will recognize that there is a definite dependency in some way, shape, or form on them. You need to dismantle this and recognize that the only way this will change is by introducing new experiences that have a greater emotional magnitude than what you're experiencing. This is what I call experiential deletion, and is something I teach in my Dharmaplicity programs. In essence, I'm not suggesting you leave this individual because most, if not all, the people you encounter will tell you this, and because you've built in your mind an absolute terror of being abandoned by this person, it's more important for me to instill a sense of empowerment in you. By this, I mean having more control over your own decisions and how you're choosing to live life. What you will inevitably notice is that when you start implementing these strategies, the narcissist will be triggered and either become more dismissive or more aggressive. There is always a consequence to your empowering yourself. So please be mindful of seeing the behavior in the narcissist and how your behavior is going to influence a change in theirs. Another point that I really have to make on this is, most, if not all, of the people stuck in the cycle of violence are wanting the love from the narcissist. So if you see some warmth and change from them when you begin to make the changes in yourself, please do not be fooled. Don't be fooled by their readjustment. This is only to soften you once again and then start gaslighting you once again. If I can help in any way, please do reach out and ask anything you need. The worst thing that you can do is suffer alone, and the moment you start shedding some light on your situation, you'll soon recognize that there are a lot of other people struggling with the same situation. You fundamentally aren't alone in this.